Hello, hi. Hello, and thank you all for coming to see us here. On Sunday night, we were working to create, the material for this talk. So we're going over the title slide, and we thought we wanted to show how fast, technology is evolving, and how what was sci-fi yesterday, today is, technology is actually working, and we see it out there. So we made this slide with C3PO and R2D2 on one side, and on the other, Ameca, and this great robot, Atlas, by Boston Dynamics. The only thing is, by Tuesday, I think Wednesday morning, Atlas was retired by Boston Dynamics. So we had to rethink the title slide. And next day, that was yesterday morning, a new Atlas was announced. This guy here, which is fully electric. So yes, AI is moving very fast. We actually felt it quite a bit these days. We had to redo the title presentation, the title slide, 3 times in 5 days. So yeah, I hope you get the message, because we did. I'm Yannis Stavroulas. I'm heading the professional services in Cognity. And before going there, I studied in and around, artificial intelligence. After that, I'm afraid I put it in the fridge for more than a decade, because it wasn't really moving, until at least not in production. But the last few years, we had the opportunity to make a comeback. Now we have a big data and machine learning team headed by my colleague here, Konstantinos.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Konstantinos Megalokonomos. I'm an engineer at heart, but I've also done a lot of computers and business stuff on top. I've been working for Cognity for the last 17 years, and I'm here to talk about AI. I also saw my first neural network, I think it was 97, and then forgot about it for many years, but now it's relevant again, the last decade. So, to start off, I want to give a brief definition, or try to see what artificial intelligence is. What's the definition? Actually, it's really difficult to define it, because once a technology becomes reality or is mature enough, then it's not AI anymore. And we tend to forget that until yesterday it was science fiction. The most useful definition I have come across is that AI is the ability of machines to perceive the environment, and then to create complex actions, to plan complex actions, to execute in order to achieve a specific goal. So I would like to keep from here 4 basic concepts: perception, planning, interaction, and targeting, goal seeking. So, but there are also more exotic capabilities only available to tech giants like Amazon. When we think of a large warehouse, we imagine a huge space with boxes and shelves and people coming up and down and moving goods with forklift. Well, in Amazon warehouses, things don't work like that. Shelves and boxes move on their own with the help of Amazon's Proteus robots. Proteus are autonomous robots that not only roam the corridors of warehouses, avoiding humans, obstacles, and other robots, but cooperate with each other and make decisions to optimize their job. When one dumps its pallet at some spot, they inform the team so that the next one knows where it is. When their batteries drains, they go to the charging station and plug in on their own. Depending on the demand of the products, they decide what to push to the back of the warehouse and what to keep up front in a handy position. Humans intervene for loading and unloading, but also robots such as Sparrow. It combines a robotic arm with a camera that reads barcodes and various other sensors. so that it can grip, recognize, and route the various packets. So what is the point of all this? 1/3 of Amazon's workforce at the moment is robots. That is 750,000 robots. And despite all this, I think we're all too occupied to see if artificial intelligence is smart enough or if it competes with human intelligence. We spend all day playing with an LLM and trying to make it do a mistake, which frankly is very easy, and then post it on the internet and make a laugh. But truth is, AI is not here just to make us superhumans or make us live for 1,000 years. AI is here also to help us out and be our helping hand and complement us. And by that, I don't just mean, since we're all here, we're all IT people, not just to write better code or make us more productive or help us writing code. I mean, AI is already life-changing for a lot of people. So AI is already the eyes for people who can't see around the world, the ears for people who can't hear, the voice for people who can't speak, or even company for those who need it. So AI is already life-changing, and has helped create an arsenal of devices and applications to make people's life better. So it's making the world already a better place. By the way, do you know what protein folding is? I'm pretty sure most don't, because, you know. So since we're mostly interested in IT here, protein folding is how proteins fold to form structures, okay? And these structures that proteins fold to determine what they do, what is their function, and how they work. And up to now, or up to last summer, for example, it took years to determine and predict the structure of a single protein, and thousands of dollars, until last summer that DeepMind developed a model that solved this 50-year-old riddle called protein folding, and now can predict the structure of a protein in days. Imagine that, from years and thousands of dollars in days. So AI can now predict the structure of a protein, and okay, so what is the outcome of this? Well, that means that we can design new drugs, understand how diseases work, think of COVID, design new enzymes, synthetic enzymes that can digest waste or even make plants more nutritious. All this stuff, it's life-changing, and it's making the world a better place. And we can expect a lot more in the coming years. So let's see what else we can expect to 2030 and beyond. Yannis?
Expectations. Expectations, friends, should be quantifiable. So let's talk about numbers. PwC, almost 10 years ago, predicted that the impact of AI to the global GDP would be in the area of $16 trillion. That's the amount of China's GDP. So AI is projected to bring another China's economy into the world. That's a lot. In terms of this country, Greece, we expect that we get 11 more billion in GDP by 2030. That's 6 years from now. And IDC predicts this year that 40% of current positions will be either changed or eliminated, in any case affected by AI. We hope most of them positively. So let's see more about the jobs. This data is based on Goldman Sachs and it's relatively fresh. It is last year's, and Goldman Sachs reiterated more or less the same estimation a while ago, a few months ago. Now, what this says is that Gen AI has mostly upturned our expectations. It caught us by complete surprise, I'd say. Many of us believed that the jobs most susceptible to automation were low-skill, repetitive, and manual labor positions. Well, no. Creative jobs were expected to be the last ones impacted, if ever, and they seem to be among the first ones impacted. You can see here maybe there's a category arts, design, entertainment, sports, and media, and has a profound impact. In the graph, dark blue means little impact from AI, light blue means substantial impact, and gray means opportunity to substitute positions with automation. So it seems like the jobs that are less affected are indeed manual labor positions, involving fine motor skills and practical experience, mind and body coordination. These are stuff difficult to be done by machines today. This includes nurses, physiotherapists, but also repairmen, and even cleaning staff. The most negative impact with jobs lost is around office administration and, not quite expectedly, legal. So, for those few of us who know how lawyers work, it turns out that much of the work they do is repetitive and bureaucratic. So this is going to go away. We didn't quite realize it maybe, but AI did. Maybe the good news is that computer science and engineering are definitely affected, but not substituted with AI, so no robot isn't much for us. No worries about that. Overall, as with previous technological revolutions, AI will destroy some jobs and create some new ones. The big difference in this case is that it impacts mostly white-collar jobs rather than blue-collar as in the past. Geographical distribution of AI's impact is, on the other hand, similar to that of previous tech revolutions. So the developed world is most exposed to both the benefits and the dangers by AI, with 20% of jobs more or less exposed. Now, the important thing in this chart is that even the developing world, even poor countries like India and Kenya, are quite affected by the technology, with 10 to 15% of their jobs exposed to AI. And since we're talking about geography, let's look at how AI capabilities spread across the globe. Today's cutting-edge AI is produced in the US, in China, in Europe and the UK, the red areas in the map. But since World War II, the development of technology has followed a very specific pattern. Innovation is produced in the developed world, mainly in the US, also Europe and Japan. And as each technology sector matures, it transitions from invention to mass production, and it moves to areas with lower production costs, mainly Southeast Asia and other parts of the world like South America, the blue ones on the map. This has been true for almost every kind of technology, from electrics, electronics, to automotive, to high-tech. Question is it AI's turn to move to Southeast Asia? Well, this guy says so. This is Kai-Fu Lee, and he is definitely entitled to an opinion. He has seen both sides of the coin. He has studied speech recognition in MIT, worked in Silicon Valley, in Apple, Microsoft, and Google, and around 15 years ago, he returned to China and became a venture capitalist. he thinks that the game changer in AI was deep learning, and that's how now in the past. We are currently reaping the products of this discovery, maybe 20 years ago, with minor improvements. We are very far from AGI yet. He thinks decades or even centuries far away. So there isn't a major breakthrough in the near future. What we will need is lots of data, hardware, and cheap electricity to train our models. Silicon Valley's top talent will not tip the balance. It will take lots of work, but not many brilliant new ideas. So why? Because we are growing from invention to implementation. This chart shows the distribution of effort along 3 phases of AI development. Ideation, if you like, that is discovering solutions, implementation of working solutions and enabling technologies, and integration into our IT ecosystems, and of course, business models. Now, if you look at it in phases, ideation is done for now and may take off again in, say, 50 years or so, and we are off to implementation and integration. Now, that was Kai-Fu Lee's take. This is my take. We are definitely off to implementation and integration. We definitely have working technologies that we can implement in production. But as for ideation, I think we have only seen the tip of the iceberg. I do agree that we haven't seen major discoveries since deep learning, but generative AI showed beyond, I think, any reasonable doubt that even small advancements can have a profound impact. So for the next while, all 3 phases will run in parallel. We certainly have working solutions that we can implement and integrate, but I think you'd better expect some disruptions in the very near future, sooner rather than later. So, in other words, if you'd like to visualize AI's evolution, like human evolution, like this, we're not there just yet. We're kind of here. AI is in its teens, and there's a long way of discoveries to reach maturity. If you need proof, check the spelling made by DALL-E. It still makes huge mistakes in orthography. So maturity, for me, would be reaching AGI, the point where AI is comparable to human intellectual ability. So I think top talent will make a profound difference, and the advantage stays with Silicon Valley. Back to figures. Let's see how generative AI means for business. In March, Bloomberg estimated that the market for generative AI would exceed $1 trillion in the next 8 years. See it over there. If you look, it has grown tenfold in the past 4 years and is forecasted to grow tenfold again in the next 8. And this is just generative AI. The total AI market is estimated to be 2 to 3 times that size. Let's see how this budget is invested. If we just skip directly to 2032, you see that half of this $1.3 trillion is spent actually on hardware. And most of it here is used for training. The amount of money spent in training hardware is crazy and shows for me just how much room for improvement both our algorithms and our hardware actually have. And if you heard that GPTs can be our way to AGI, I found this chart. If I have the numbers right, AI training costs as much as the education of around 500 million people. So I think there's room for improvement. Also, of particular interest to people in this room should be the last 2 lines in the chart, representing forecasted expenditure to IT and business services around Gen AI. From 120 million in 2022, they are projected to reach 120 billion in 2032. That's 1,000 times up. The figure is just, dizzying. I'm getting dizzy. Kosti, I think I need a doctor.
Yeah. Okay. I think we're at the right business at the right moment. I didn't expect that when I saw the first neural network back in school, but I'm happy I'm here now. So for you, Yannis, we have your GPT private doctor. So back to GPT and its medical applications. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, you all know him, dreams of ChatGPT becoming a robotic doctor. So he has stated that again and again his ambition is not unfounded. I'm sure most of you have experimented with it, and you know that it can provide useful advice on many medical issues, especially the relatively simple ones.
This will be the greatest technology humanity has yet developed. We can all have an incredible educator in our pocket that's customized for us, that helps us learn, that helps us do what we want. We can have medical advice for everybody that is beyond what we can get today.
Okay, so he's copying a bit Bill Gates, saying that we will have a doctor at every home, but we've seen it works. And the thing is, it also sounds great, but what you may not know is that GPT currently has enough medical knowledge to pass the American medical licensing exams with ease. Scientists from Microsoft and OpenAI published a paper in March 2023 where the latest version of ChatGPT at that point comfortably passes the United States medical licensing exams.
I feel dizzier now.
Yeah. Hold on. In September, a second study published in Nature by scientists from Tel Aviv University and New York tested it on a subset of topics, including issues of communication, medical ethics, proper practice, and patient psychology management. It scored 90%. So can ChatGPT become a licensed doctor? Well, to earn their degree, students at this moment, a student needs more than just to pass the exams, okay? They must also take the medical oath. The point here is that the medical oath binds them to follow the moral principles of the medical profession. The point here is, ladies and gentlemen, can a robot take an oath? Or AI, can it take an oath? Can it have ethics? Can we trust it? So let's take, those of you who have kids will understand this next slide. So let's take a look at this story.
Classic.
So what's the problem here? If you can't explain it, then I can't trust what you're telling me. So, Yannis, you want to talk about trust?
I'm not sure because it's tricky, but to trust someone, it's complicated. First of all, we have to have common grounds. We have to have common values, believe in the same things, uphold the same values. We have to have common or compatible, at least, motives and goals, and to have to be able to explain our actions and decisions to each other. Now, the problem is that most AI algorithms operate like a black box, which we cannot see inside. They inherently have an explanation problem because they do not produce logical inferences like we humans do. In areas like image recognition, this isn't a problem because only the result matters. So deep learning has been very, very successful in replicating the human eye. But in decision-making systems, where the end doesn't necessarily justify the means, it's more complicated. Issues of justification and adherence to rules and values arise. If we adopt AI systems that are not designed to be trustworthy, eventually a status quo will be established where AI systems are so useful, we will simply take them for granted, and habit will fill in the trust gap. I think this is actually happening with the chatbots this year. Now, in an effort to address this, the European Union, in the framework of GDPR, has established the right to explanation. This stipulates that all decisions made by computers that affect us must be explainable. For example, if an algorithm rejects my life insurance application, I have to know why it made this decision. Problem is that AI is not an algorithm. It is capable of providing an explanation for its decisions, but these explanations are formed retrospectively, solely to justify the decision. They do not represent the way AI reached this decision. It's like a trained lawyer who digs for every possible argument that justifies his client's decisions and actions. And this is not making lawyers very popular most of the time. Now, but these are limitations of the technology we have today. These are not inherent problems in artificial intelligence. So, to go around them, there are two ways. One is to follow initiatives that have explainability built from the ground up, so explainability by design. Interpretability science takes a different approach and develops methodologies and tools to make existing AI models, like deep learning models, explainable to humans and transparent of sorts. Kosti, your take.
So, yeah, I think you have a problem with lawyers, but let's take a look at this slide, talking about trust, okay? We all have heard the proverb, I have to see it to believe it. As we say in Greek, να το δω για να το πιστέψω. Is this still true? I mean, we've quickly gone from fake news in the last decade to almost fake everything. Can we believe our eyes? Obviously not anymore. Take, for example, and I don't want to give any ideas to possible fraudsters, but take, for example, the well-known fraud, where fraudsters call old people and make up a story about their grandchildren, and like they had an accident or they were involved in a situation with the police and ask for money, and at the end of the day, they might get the money. So this is still happening, actually, in Greece. I don't know if you know about it. But what will happen when your own kid video calls you and you see live his face and tells you something had happened? How do you know it's the truth? And it might sound crazy, but again, if you're a parent, you will understand. I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I'm already teaching her or trying to teach her passphrases in order that when in the future, if we end up in such a situation, there is a passphrase that only me, her, and her mother knows. This is insane, okay? It means that we're actually, like we use a passphrase to connect to a remote server. It's almost like we're having a real-life authentication mechanism. Like, it has to be built. Another example of the limitations of AI or threats, we had the presentation a couple of weeks ago in IMC. IMC is the Interactive and Marketing Conference in Greece. So we built this influencer, fake influencer on Instagram, and we connected it to a bot, and then we integrated the bot with OpenAI, and we also flooded the bot with too much information, like what the users click, what they liked from my photos, we went through their profiles and found what their biography, what they have posted. Okay, obviously all the marketeers underneath had their jaws dropped and said, okay, we need this. The thing is, the actual bot could actually sell you stuff and engage in conversation with you and personalize everything that it was telling you. The idea is here, all this thing called hyper-personalization, that is the talk of the town this year, it's so tempting, especially for us IT engineers, because we have the technology to do it. It's actually pretty easy to do it. The thing is that it's also very dangerous, because all this content that is optimized for you, and it's on purpose, on double quotes, optimized, because actually what they want, what the AI does is it wants you to spend as much time as possible on the specific application or website. You end up creating a reality that is only there for you, and it's a distorted reality. And the problem is that the person next to you has a different reality, and bubbles form around us. And we come to a point that we cannot communicate with each other at all. So every person has its own reality. Especially if you see kids, you will know what I'm saying. And everything is so personalized, it's just unique to us. So we don't have shared experiences anymore. So there comes regulation and oversight, probably my least favorite subject, but probably also the most important one. So yeah, it's boring, but we have to say something about it, because it might be the least exciting, but bear with me for a few slides, 2 slides. So, the last couple of years, there has been a lot of talk about regulation, okay? And I'm not going to go through it all, but 2 things I would like to point out is the European Union AI Act that regulates AI development and use in the European Union. And it talks about safety, trust, transparency, accountability, risk classification, and all that. And also, the US Congress AI hearing in September of 2023, which actually invited all the big tech around AI, and I'm talking about Tesla, Meta, Google, OpenAI, NVIDIA, IBM, to talk about regulation. The problem is, it was all behind doors, so we know nothing about it. OpenAI, a year ago, the top people in OpenAI wrote a blog post advocating the regulation of emerging powerful AI and making parallels with nuclear energy. Nuclear energy is regulated by IAEA, an international body under the United Nations, and oversees benign and safe utilization of nuclear energy. So are we there? Is it comparable? This also signified a marked departure from the open sourcing their code, which OpenAI had their code open until GPT-2, okay, that was 2019. The company said in 2019 that it was too dangerous to continue releasing the GPT language model to the public, as it looked too similar to human speech, and if placed in the wrong hands, it could generate high-quality fake news. Well, it's already happening, so that didn't work. So, last slide about regulation, and I really think it's important to note that we have a debate about open source and black box, okay? So what's going to happen? Will AI models be open source or locked up in a black box? The thing here is, one scenario is that there will be open source models and closed models serving different areas. Models focusing on specific, hard-to-find, expensive information that is not publicly available, medical seats, etc., or some information you have to buy will be closed models. But models that are general, trained with data from the internet, will be open-sourced. But this is an ongoing debate, after all, and it's not only about democratization. It's also about security and, unfortunately, also about profit. So what do the major players think about it? So USA, the States, they recognize the importance of innovation that comes with open sourcing, but they're also saying, well, there are safety issues, and investors will go away if it's open source, etc. So Biden just told his staff, okay, think about it, talk to experts, and come back in July. So we will know in July what they want to do. In the European Union, though, through the AI Act I told you about before, they decided they will not regulate open source code. And regulation is only for closed source or for safety issues in high-risk AI. And that's good news for France and Germany because that's what they wanted, because they have a lot of startups in the open source area. So this is all what's happening in the next year. So Yannis, what should we expect in the future, in maybe 2015, beyond?
Now that's risky business. If you think about how much has changed in the last 30 years, it's hard to believe, really. But we'll give it a try. And because it's too difficult, we went to ask the experts. Now, this guy is Nick Bostrom, and he has thought a lot about how artificial intelligence goes towards AGI, and AGI goes towards superintelligence. Now, let's say in 50 years, according to most experts, it's likely that we will have reached AGI. But if machines reach human cognitive capacity, what's to stop them from actually surpassing it? Not much. And what happens then? It's complicated. So Bostrom says the tipping point in the evolution of AI is when the machine becomes smart enough to actually improve itself. Because self-improvement will cause, an avalanche phenomenon. So a likely scenario says that we may be slow to reach AGI, you name it, 5, 10, 20 years. It's very difficult to predict today. But once we do, then it's all downhill, and it's going to happen very fast. And then the problem we will face is how to control these machines and not end up in some, kind of dystopian future, like the one described in the Matrix trilogy of movies or George Orwell's 1984. I'm sure there are a lot of novels out there. So a particularly interesting point made by Bostrom is the development of survival instincts by machines without assuming they are conscious, they are self-motivated, or maliciously programmed by bad people and so on. So simply put, a self-improving machine that is given a very specific task becomes greedy. It wants to take on as more resources as possible because resources help it achieve its goal because it can compute, more. It's simple as that, in fact. So the greater the improvements it can make to itself, the better it will actually perform. Now imagine a program on my laptop here, totally benign, like a drug discovery program, that is able to adapt and self-improve. Say, while adapting its code, it finds a security leak and copies itself to the computer in the next room, or the computer in the other room next door. It will be able to perform more calculations and will bring better results faster. So it will quickly conclude that it must conquer all the computers in the world in order to create better drugs. It is likely that when instructing my program on what to do and what not, I might not have exactly mentioned not conquering the world. So it will be tricky to control machines smarter than us humans. But the real hard part will come after we solve this control problem. Now imagine a society where machines can do everything, and you and me don't need to do anything. So now, what do? How do we spend our time? How do we satisfy our need for creativity? Or is there such a need after all? So the only good thing is that we will have access to great robotic therapists, probably cheap as well. Now, it's interesting to see how this will affect philosophical and religious thinking. And finally, I think most of you have actually seen the Terminator series. So will AI ever develop a consciousness? Will it develop a will of its own? Will it become like us, humans? Short answer, no, not likely. Because we have feelings. Feelings are binding us, our hardware, and our bodies together. Our software, let's say, our brains and thoughts, with our bodies. So the perception and processing of experiences affects us biologically in ways we cannot control, in fact. So if we see a blue sky, we are happy. If we smell food, then we are hungry and makes us drool. It goes vice versa as well. When we feel pain, we cannot think clearly, and the state of our bodies, our hardware, for example, being hungry, affects the way we process experiences and react to them, and the goal we set for moving on. So this is what makes our experiences subjective, and subjective experiences are a key component of consciousness. Also, feelings are the mechanism through which our instincts affect our rational processes. For instance, seeing the sunny blue sky mentioned before makes us happy, which pushes humans towards mild climates, better for our survival. In turn, the development of instincts is a result of Darwinian natural selection. So, okay, machines will never become like us because of our feelings, our instincts, and our bodies influence our thinking and decisioning process and so on. But is this a privilege or is it a drawback? I guess it is both. This is who we are, though. Now, I just mentioned Darwinian natural selection, and the next big revolution after superintelligence, the really big one, is, well, getting rid of it. Now, historian and author Yuval Noah Harari, who's also an advisor to the World Economic Forum, has a kind of dystopian outlook. He believes that the greatest revolution will come from biotech and genetic engineering and will create a schism in the human species. These technologies will eventually allow us to recode our DNA as we see fit. But as everything, they will likely come with a cost. So those who invest in improving their DNA will gain physical and mental abilities probably well beyond whatever we have seen in the average Homo sapiens. This will create a kind of superhumans with DNA so different from ours that they may be considered a different species altogether, who will see probably tomorrow's sapiens the way we see gorillas today. So Harari believes that the major political and economic question of the 21st century will be, do we need Homo sapiens? And if so, do we need so many of them? I can't say, but let's take one thing at a time. For now, we have to deal with AI. So let's try to cope with it. It's a powerful technology with the ability to make or break civilization and society. So how do we go about it as humanity? And maybe more to the point, what can we do about it now, today, and tomorrow? Kostis will tell us.
Okay, so we need to wake up, and that means be aware of the possibilities, the limitations, not be disillusioned. We need to think about regulation, and that means be part of the whole conversation about regulating AI and code of conduct.
Regulating will take forever, in fact. So we have to see what we do meanwhile. We have to develop best practices, a code of conduct that will allow us to exploit the capabilities AI offers while avoiding the pitfalls. So until regulation clears out, it's best to opt for open source, I think. Definitely open source. So we know what we're dealing with, and we also avoid future regulatory headaches. We have to take extreme care of the data we use in terms both of data quality and of course usage rights like GDPR or intellectual property. Now, I think the most important part though is we have to just go for it. We need to just, invest in AI because it will be shaped and regulated by those who do AI. So we have to be there. If we want to be part of the next day, we have to get involved, we have to get to know it, experiment with our options, and avoid getting locked into a single vendor. The only way to take it where we want to go is if we are in the lead. Otherwise, somebody else will lead us. So, if you're only going to keep 3 words from today's presentation, don't fear AI. Just go for it. Thank you.